Welcome to the Psychology World podcast. I'm Connor Whiteley, bringing you psychology news, articles, and other interesting psychology-related articles. Where I can find the podcast notes and more interesting psychology-related things, and you can get your free 8 psychology book box set at connorwhiteley.net. Now let's get on to the show. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 46 of the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley, and today's episode is on what can you say to depressed people to help them. And it's Friday the 7th of August 2020 as I record this. So it's August, God, so like the whole year's gone so fast. So moving on to the psychology news section, reading from the British Psychological Society Research Digest, and there are actually some really great ones. So let's move on with a few bits. So how to get the most out of virtual learning. This one I picked because it's really important in the current things. And as I know some of you, or at least most of you, are university students, and I myself am one, this should help you, as hopefully it will help me in the current autumn term, which we are fast approaching. It's a scary thought. Soon I'll be in another year of the university. So when the coronavirus hit, many of us had to quickly adapt to remote working. And even post-pandemic, I really don't think we're even close to post-pandemic yet. Many of us are likely to continue at least some of these tasks online. The ones with more flexible working practice continue to grow, and for good reason. It can make life easier for employees with parenting or care responsibilities to help problems or disabilities, and some argue it will also increase productivity. Online webinars and conferences also allowed for continued professional development without workers ever having to leave their home office. I will caveat that sometimes conferences that would be really interesting in person are so boring online, and that's sometimes the presenter's fault, sometimes because of the medium itself. Things are no different in the world of education. Many undergraduate courses now provide lecture recordings for students to watch in their own time, and online master's programs are offered at some of the UK's top universities. Freshers Week this year is also likely to be very different, with many students experiencing a wholly virtual first year at university. And this I'm actually quite interested in because I'm treasurer of the Bacon Society this year. So I think it'd be quite interesting to know how I'm meant to help at Freshers Week. But learning online is not always easy. How do you concentrate when staring at a screen for hours at a time? How do you manage workload, and what is the best strategy for notes? Here's our digest of the findings that can help make online learning stick. And to be honest, instead of the usual 3, because I'm going to go into more in depth on this one, I'm going to just do 2. So in 2019, a team from Kent State University looked at how often students were following best practices on note taking. Writing with pen and paper is encouraged because laptops can both distract note takers and those sitting near them. And actually, yeah, that's quite encouraged as my university is. Lecturers really don't mind it, but it's just a bit they do prefer you to do pen and paper. The best practice here is both organising information and using it to test your knowledge rather than passively writing and rereading notes is also likely to boost memories. Yeah, but something I said in my cognitive psychology book, second edition, is that it's really good if you actually practice and you actively try to create retrieval paths to boost your memory. And another tip is thinking about what you get out of the video, lecture or webinar before you watch it might therefore help you retain more information. So what the tip here is that before you watch your lecture or a webinar, sit down, close your eyes maybe, and just think, what do you want to get out of this? And that should help you hopefully. So set your goals early. Try to set yourself learning outcomes and evaluate successfully how you achieve them at the end of the course. This may help you hone your technique for future classes, courses or modules. So work on your concentration. I think a lot of people could do this right now, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. I really don't know how anyone got anything done, because I know I struggled. Work on your concentration. Oh, this is interesting. One study claimed that treadmill desks help memory and concentration. Others suggest that doodling can do the same. If you're reaching for the fidget spinner, however, you might be disappointed. One 2019 study suggested that they can impede learning. Oh, and another great tip, get social. And this has a lot of well-being benefits, and I think this really does help with concentration. But let's look at what the studies say. So one study suggested that discussing course materials with other students in online forums may help improve outcomes. Yes, because especially if you're a bit competitive, I'm not, but you can sort of like want to prove that you want to be the smartest, you'll be recalling on more and more. Yes, the students who are most active in learning forums were more likely to achieve a higher final grade. And you can look at the article with the British Psychological Society Research Digest website because there's so many different tips. Hopefully that you found like that bit useful. But I know that the two main author forums that I'm a part of, that I contribute to more, and I'm quite active on. I actually remember quite a few things that I'm on there. So we'll do one more. Oh yeah, this one I found quite funny. Psychologists uncover a new self-serving bias. If it's my theory, it must be true. If you're looking at research literature on self-serving biases, it's a little surprise that critical thinking that's needed in much today's world is such a challenge. Consider three human biases that you've already heard of. Most of us think we're better than average at most things, also known as illusionary superiority or the late Wood-Begone effect. I'm so sorry, I've just butchered that. Also known as confirmation bias. And then there's also the endowment bias, which describes the extra that you replace on things just as soon as there was. A 2016 paper extends the list of known biases by documenting a new one that combines elements of the better than average combines confirmation and the endowment effect. The team finds that simply asking participants to imagine that a theory is their own biases them to believe that truth in such theory, a phenomenon that the researchers have called the spontaneous preferences our own theories effect, also known as the spot effect. So that I think is really, really interesting. And just as a thing that if we ever do create our own theories in the future, I think it's really good to us just take a moment back, step back, imagine you're someone else and try and critique it. Maybe that might combat it a bit more, but who knows. So I hope you've enjoyed today's psychology news section. Let's move on to the personal update. Moving on to the personal update today. It's really hot in England today. I think it's going to be up to like 37 degrees, but in my bedroom it's thankfully I was about to say that it's really cooler, but then I realised why, because I've recorded the content part of today's episode. I've recorded the psychology news section, which you've just heard, and I've just realised I've had my window open. So if you hear any screaming kids, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot, but it's really hot, so I put my cognitive unconscious perhaps just wanted me to stay cool so I could continue to enjoy talking to all of you without sweating. And so moving on to the proper personal update, this week's been very much a fiction related, so I'm going to quickly talk about that. So my next Garrow book, Garrow Mistress of Blood, is almost done. I've got about another 8 chapters to write, so to be honest, I'll do one more chapter today and I'll finish it off next week because I'm really keen to do a bit of like marketing, because I bought this amazing feature the other day. And if you go on to Amazon or Google Play, the next week, or to be honest, or when you hear this, if you like go on there and if you look at some of my books, you should see a brand new 3D covers. So I'm actually quite looking forward to sorting them out and actually uploading them, because I bought this amazing new tool. I'm really happy with it. And there's just a few more things. So I finally finished the formulation research. I've got 49 sheets of paper. That's 98 pages of notes to type up, and I'm probably going to focus on turning that into a book after I've done a bit more research. So that will probably be a September project, but I am going to dabble in it this month. So next week I hope to type up at least half of it, and also finish off the Garrow book, a bit of audiobooks, and then some other bits. So it's a busy week next week. And also in the next few weeks, I'm also going to change the sign up. So if you sign up for my email list now, you're also going to get it at connorwhiteley.net. And you're actually going to get all my first editions. So you should probably get about, you will get 8 ebooks when you sign up for my email list. So feel free to sign up for it now or wait till the change. Either way, you're going to get it pretty soon. So that you've got to look forward to. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is that I've been watching the podcast data for a little while now, and as always, thank you so much for all of you for listening, and the growing numbers of listeners. It really means a lot. And I know that the second largest listener group of this podcast is from South Africa. And I wanted to quickly say, and this actually goes for everyone, and even more so for countries that don't have access to Amazon. you can actually get my books from Amazon if that's available to you in your country. But you can also get my books on Kobo, Google Play, and like tons of other like sites. So like I pretty much pretty much like whatever country you live in, you should definitely be able to get my ebooks. And on like a lot of countries, I tend to like globally price them, so I tend to match the prices to your local currency, if that makes sense. But yeah, so but basically, what I do is that I try to make the ebook affordable to your own country. For example, going back to the South African example, you can buy all my psychology books for $69.99 each. And from what I understand, that's quite the average price for a non-fiction book in your country. And the same goes for all the other like countries. I always like to make my books affordable for you. So, well, the highlight of today's episode is going to be my Abnormal Psychology book, second edition, and this is available in ebook, audiobook format on all the non-Audible Amazon stores, but it should be coming in the next week. So the week this goes out, you should be able to find it on Audible, and this is also available in large print, paperback, and workbook format. This is available on Amazon, Google Play, Kobo, pretty much all major ebook retailers. So here's the blurb. Do you want to know the causes of depression? Do you want to know how mental conditions are treated? Do you want to know about anxiety and its types? If the answer is yes to any of these questions, then this is the book for you, as you'll learn about clinical psychology, abnormal psychology, and a lot more in an easy to understand way. By the end of this book, you'll know what causes depression and several other mental conditions and how they're treated and more. By today to read about this truly interesting topic. Yes, this book I really like and enjoy because it goes into treatments, quite a lot about treatments, and also goes into different mental conditions, for example, depression and its causes, anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, especially compulsive disorder, also like what causes all the different conditions. And it also goes into treatment, and it even goes into how culture impacts that treatment. So I truly hope that you even enjoy this book, and if you want to support the show personally, then please go to patreon.com/conwhiteley. That is patreon.com/conwhiteley. So let's move on to the content part of today's episode. Moving on to the content part of today's episode. So we're going to be talking about what to say to a depressed person to help them. This is a really important area because depression and anxiety are actually quite common. And I fully believe that what I say in today's episode, you can actually use to other people suffering from different mental conditions. So let's dive into it and hope you find it useful. And that is if you yourself suffer from this mental condition, or if you know someone who does. So basically, I hope everyone finds this really helpful. So first thing, I'm here for you. So I know this sounds really simple, and to be honest, a lot of what I say today sounds really simple, and to be honest, what you should do already. But in my own experience, I fully accept that it's often the most common sense things that we should do. Right, well, that we should do, and this is in life for book marketing in my case, and some of it that we actually forget out because common sense, we just assume that we've already done it or other people know it. So that's something to think about. So I'm here for you, and this is really important because this one and the next one, which is what can I do for you, actually lets the depressed person know that you are there for them, you value them, you want to help them, and they can rely on you for social support, which is really, really important when you have a depression or social anxiety. And yes, this is going to be a really, really quick episode today. So another one is, I like X, Y, Z about you. So a practical example of this could be saying that I like your opinions, dance moves, and the way you make people laugh. So saying stuff like that is actually quite critical for a depressed person because you're giving them positive reinforcement, and most importantly, you are testing the reality of their negative thoughts, and it's through this challenging and ultimately the changing of these negative thoughts that will actually help the depressed person overcome their problems. I say in air quotations because I'm the school of thought that mental illnesses, I don't know, well, it's a complicated, you'll have to read one of my books to find out what I mean by it, but yes, but a better term for it is difficulties. So to help these depressed people overcome their difficulties and change their negative thoughts into more positive thoughts, as outlined in Beck's theory of depression. So another one is, yes, that's bad. So the important thing here is that you acknowledge the depressed person's concerns and that they're real, which is really important. Because sometimes if you're depressed or you have social anxiety, then you feel like it's all in your head, you're messed up and all of that sort of stuff. But if somebody says that, no, you're not making this up, try and relax, your situations are real. Yeah, this I'm just completely going off my head here. Off of my head. So, yes, and that this makes them feel like they're being listened to and that they're valued and they are not alone. Basically, all of these things have the theme of not being alone, social support, and challenging the negative thoughts so that they could hopefully change them. And the last one, or no, sorry, I lie, there's two more. There are ways to get through this. So this is another one, critical one, and this is more to do with you're trying to get the person to actually seek professional help because you and your friends, you can try and sort it out yourself, but chances are you will need professional help. You will need to go through psychotherapy, perhaps, or maybe some medication might help. I'm, of course, the school of thought, as I've said before, that I prefer psychotherapy, but I know that medication has a very valid place in psychological treatment of a biological treatment for depression, as outlined in Animal Psychology Second Edition, before I just throw that in there. That I just want to repeat to people that just if you want to seek treatment, this is not a weakness or whatever else that society or our current culture tells us. Because, to be honest, as I've said before, I think it's a strength because you need a lot of courage to be able to ask for help. That's something. But if you need help, just go for it because this will help you to live a healthier, better life potentially. And to be honest, if this is what you want to tell somebody, then please tell them because you can help them take that first step towards a more happier, healthier life. I feel like I'm on some sort of like commercial. And to be honest, it's actually quite good to throw in a bit of humour with these quite, I don't know, serious, helpful episodes, hopefully. And then the last one is that I've been through it too. So if you've had any sort of mental condition, and this person is suffering from something similar or the exact same, tell them. Let them know that they aren't alone, they aren't the only one, and they can actually turn someone who's been through it and has recovered. That being quite a relative term to some extent, and quite an odd term in dealing with mental conditions, because let them ask you questions. I had to figure out how to say that for a second because you are helping them. You are their one source of reliable information from your own experience, and you can give them hope, and that's so important for depression and social anxiety. So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you want to learn more about depression, for example, its causes and treatments, please check out A Normal Psychology Second Edition. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see the show notes, then please go to connorwhiteley.net. And if you want a free 8-book psychology box set, then please go to connorwhiteley.net. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.